Kevin began to recognize certain neighborhood children who he frequently found playing in the park. Kevin was noticeably more skilled than the other children whenever they would play with the ball. After playing, Kevin would return to where everyone was watching, rub Charlie's back, and talk about how he played. One day when Kevin finished playing ball with the children, an adult approached everyone. The adult introduced themselves and explained that they were the parent of a child who was playing with Kevin. Rita introduced everyone and acknowledged that they had watched their child play with Kevin several times before. The parent admitted that they had also watched Kevin play in the park and thought he was very talented. The parent invited Kevin to play on the soccer team their child played on that they also coached. Ava thanked the parent for their offer and informed them that everyone would discuss it together and let them know in the future. Everyone said goodbye, returned to the backyard to stretch, and then proceeded to Kevin's suite to begin researching soccer. After making their way through all the soccer materials from the bookshelves, Kevin requested that they visit the library to gather more materials. After Rita and Ava had read aloud all the general rules to soccer and placed them on the chalkboard, Kevin was relieved to realize that he was already following all of the basic rules when he practiced in the backyard or played with the children in the park. He explained that some children in the park were not following all the rules when he played with them, and explained which rules other children were not following. Rita and Ava moved on to read about the positions in the game and what the purpose of each was. Kevin helped draw a field and the locations of the positions on the chalkboard. Kevin realized that he could play any position other than goalie, as he had already been practicing the purpose of every other position. Kevin admitted that he did not like when other children kicked balls as hard as they could right at him, and decided that he did not want to practice or play the position of goalie. They moved on from reading and started watching videos of soccer games. Kevin's eyes grew wide and was in shock when he realized how many people were around the field cheering on the players. He would follow the ball and notice how the players were using their positions to pass around the field. Kevin mentioned how the one team was simply keeping the ball away from the other team, like everyone kept the ball away from Charlie in the backyard. They watched an entire game where only one goal was scored, and the goalies only had to stop a few kicks. Tony switched to a video which was a collection of successful plays from many different games. The video was much more exciting for Kevin to watch, as he was able to see many different ways in which players would score goals and the crowds that cheered after every goal. Kevin decided he wanted to be a soccer player on a team. After going through all the materials, Kevin still did not understand what a coach was and how they were a part of the team. He said that every player had a position to play, but there was no mention anywhere of coaches and how they were involved. Rita and Ava explained that there were no rules for coaches in soccer because they never take part in the actual game. Coaches watched the game from the side of the field and made decisions as to which player was to play and in what position. Kevin wondered why players were not able to pick their own positions amongst themselves, like they did when making meals. Rita and Ava told Kevin they did not know exactly why coaches were required, and that since there were no rules for coaches in the books or videos, he would have to find out the purpose of his own coach when he joined the team to play his first game. Kevin was excited the day of his first game. He spent most of the day practicing with Charlie in the backyard and re-watching the soccer videos. For the first time ever, Kevin was concerned with the time of day. as he knew what time he had to be at the field before the game. Everyone headed over to the field earlier than required, as Kevin was excited to get started. No one else had arrived to the field, so Kevin let Charlie off his leash and practiced with him on the field until the next players arrived. Tony offered to play goalie as Kevin practiced on the net. Eventually, the coach and his child came and provided Kevin with cleats, shin guards, socks, and a team jersey. Once the entire team arrived, Kevin recognized many of the neighborhood children he had played with before, and they recognized him. Rita, Ava, and Charlie sat on the side of the field, and Tony stood behind them, pacing and writing in his notebook. From the side of the field, the coach instructed and observed Kevin and his teammates as they practiced handling and kicking the ball in various formations on the field. The coach informed each player what position they were to play, and the game started. Kevin quickly began to realize that none of his teammates were playing their assigned positions properly, and that they were simply chasing the ball around the field like they usually did in the park. At one point, the ball and all the players made their way to the side of the field where Kevin's position was located, and he was left to stand and watch in confusion as everyone continued to be completely out of position. Kevin looked over at everyone, and they smiled and shrugged their shoulders. Eventually, Kevin chased after the ball, handled it away from everyone, made his way to the other team's net, and scored a goal. Everyone cheered, and Charlie howled. The teams took a break at halftime, and everyone returned to their coaches on the side of the field. Kevin's coach told his team that they were playing well and asked that they try and pass the ball to each other in the second half. After the team meeting, Kevin returned to everyone and explained how none of the players on either team were playing their positions properly, and how several players were not even following some of the rules of soccer. Kevin seemed to be frustrated and disappointed by the game, as he was expecting to keep the ball away from the other team and pass the ball to open players like they had watched on the videos. Kevin was also confused because the coach had not mentioned the team's inability to play their assigned positions or follow the rules of soccer. As the second half of the game was about to start and the players were taking to the field, Kevin tried to discuss with those teammates who were positioned closest to him how they should play their positions, explaining that they should remain in the area of the field that was assigned to them, and when the ball came to their area, they should handle it or pass it over to the teammate in the area next to them, if they were open. The game started, and all the players started to chase the ball around the field again. Kevin grew more frustrated and left his position to chase after the ball too. He handled the ball out of the crowd of players and tried again to direct his teammates to run into an open area of the field so he could pass the ball to them. Everyone continued to run along with Kevin, and one of his teammates tried to take the ball away from him. This allowed one of the more talented players on the other team to retrieve the ball and tie the game. Kevin's coach called a timeout, and the team gathered together. He told the team that if Kevin would have passed the ball, the last goal would not have happened. He told the players to keep playing their best, and the timeout was over. Kevin left the timeout frustrated and ran to everyone to tell them what had happened. Rita assured Kevin that it was an accident, Ava explained that the coach was obviously wrong, and Tony flexed his arm and pointed at Kevin. The game started again, and Kevin joined his team back on the field. The players continued to chase the ball around the field, and Kevin reluctantly left his position again to join them. He handled the ball away from the crowd and scored another goal. His teammates cheered and hugged him. Everyone cheered, Tony whistled loudly, and Charlie howled. As the game resumed, the players continued to chase the ball around, and Kevin handled the ball away and scored a third time. His teammates and everyone cheered again, Tony wrote in his notebook. When the game was over, Kevin returned to everyone at the side of the field, and they congratulated him on his excellent performance. Kevin described how he was disappointed that none of the players followed all the rules of soccer, and neither of the coaches seemed concerned. He removed the equipment that was provided before the game and returned it to his coach. The coach told Kevin that he played well and that he could keep the equipment for the next game. Kevin left the equipment with his coach and told him that he would discuss it with everyone and let the team know in the future. Everyone returned to the backyard, stretched, enjoyed the fire, and Kevin explained that he did not want to play on a soccer team. Tony wrote in his notebook. Kevin was inspired to practice with his ball in the backyard with Charlie, even though the weather was getting cooler. They would spend most of the day in the backyard, periodically checking through the fence to see if there were children playing. When there were children playing, everyone joined Kevin in the park and cheered him on. After playing, Kevin returned to everyone and talked about his inspirations. One day, when Kevin finished playing ball with the children, an adult approached everyone. The adult introduced themselves and explained that they were the parent of a child who was playing with Kevin. Ava introduced everyone and acknowledged that they had watched their child play with Kevin several times before. The parent explained that they lived a few houses down the bay from them, that they were having a party for their child, and that everyone was invited. Rita informed them that everyone would discuss it together and let them know in the future. Everyone said goodbye, and they returned to Kevin's suite to research parties. Rita and Ava explained that there was a lot of materials on parties because there were so many different kinds. However, all parties were essentially a gathering of people in order to visit, eat food, play games, enjoy entertainment, listen to music, dance, and celebrate being together. Kevin admitted that he often wondered if other children were partying in their houses like they did in his suite every day. Rita said it was most likely other people were partying in their own homes, and Ava added that there was no way to truly verify if this was the case. Kevin did not understand why the parent said they were having a party for their child. Rita and Ava explained that sometimes people dedicate parties to one person. Kevin did not understand how a party could be for one person if the purpose of a party was for people to join and celebrate being together. Rita and Ava explained that they did not know why exactly, and that since there were no set rules for parties, he would have to find out the purpose of the neighbor's party by attending. Kevin said that he wanted to know the purpose, and Tony wrote in his notebook. Kevin was excited the day of the party. The morning discussion took longer than usual, as Kevin could not decide on the type of features he wanted to prepare for the party. He decided on 4 of his current favorite features, since there was 4 of them to carry each one to the party. Kevin was extra attentive during the preparation of the features, as he wanted to ensure they were made exactly as they should be. He made sure to write out the recipe for each feature and present it with each feature at the party. Their feature presentation was completed well before the party was scheduled to begin, so Kevin decided to practice with Charlie in the backyard, the only games he imagined could be played at the party. At the stated time, everyone walked over to the neighbor's house with their features. The parent of the child answered the door and was happy to see everyone and all they had brought. Kevin explained to the parent each of the features they had brought and that everyone was excited to join the party. They entered the home, set their features in the kitchen, and were instructed to join the rest of the party guests in the backyard. When they entered the backyard, the children from the park recognized Kevin and Charlie, ran over to greet them, and rubbed Charlie's back. The child whom the party was for was left alone as a result and looked upset. The child came over to the group of children and asked Kevin why he brought Charlie to the party. Kevin introduced her to Charlie and told her he was his best friend. The girl started to cry and ran into the house. Kevin was confused, and Rita assured him it was an accident. Ava added that there was no way to truly verify if this was the case. Tony grabbed Charlie's leash from Kevin, and everyone suggested that he play with the other children in the backyard. As Kevin played, everyone watched from the group of other adults in the backyard. Tony wrote in his notebook. Kevin was inspired by the many new ball games the children were playing, as they were all using only their hands to play. Kevin watched and laughed as the children were throwing balls through hoops and at stacks of bottles. One of the children gave Kevin a ball to try the games, and he played well. Kevin was surprised by how well he was playing, even though he had not practiced the games before. He left the games and joined everyone and explained what he was doing. Rita and Ava told him that they were watching him play, congratulated him on his ability, and encouraged him to continue playing. Tony gave 2 thumbs up, and Kevin smiled and gave 2 thumbs up. Kevin continued to play the new ball games and cheer with the other children. The children cheered for Kevin as he was able to play the games the best. The girl whom the party was for came over to the cheering children and told them that they had to stop playing the games and follow her somewhere else. One of the children ignored the instructions, and the girl grabbed a ball, threw it, and hit them in the face. The child started to cry and ran to an adult. The girl started to cry again and ran back into the house. Kevin returned to everyone and told them what happened. Everyone rubbed Charlie's back and talked about how well Kevin played the new games. A song that Kevin recognized came on the stereo, and he started to dance. Some of the other children saw Kevin and joined him in dancing. Kevin could see Charlie wanted to join in, so he ran over to everyone and asked to take Charlie for a dance. Rita and Ava were hesitant and asked Kevin if he was sure. Kevin insisted and brought Charlie to dance with all the children. Kevin held Charlie's front paws and danced with him, and all the children danced and cheered around them. The girl whom the party was for came back out of the house crying and told the children to stop dancing. Kevin and Charlie stopped and returned to everyone. Kevin explained that he wanted to leave the party. They went back in the house, and Kevin informed the parent who invited them that they enjoyed the party and they would retrieve their feature containers sometime in the future. Everyone went for a jog around the park and stretched and relaxed by the fire pit when they were done. Kevin explained that he enjoyed the party, but did not think the girl who the party was for had enjoyed it. Kevin thought the girl wanted to instruct the other children how they were supposed to party, similar to how coaches instruct players on how they were supposed to play their games. Kevin felt that all the children enjoyed partying with each other, and yet the girl was unable to enjoy it too. Similar to how the coaches were unable to enjoy playing with the team they were coaching. Kevin figured that this was most likely why there were so many accidents at the party. He concluded that there should be another party where the girl did not have to be the coach, and could enjoy the party just like all the other children. Everyone smiled and nodded, and Tony wrote in his notebook. They went inside and sat around the table to discuss the next party. Kevin wanted to propose the idea of a party to every house on the bay. He explained that each house could prepare their favorite features, accompanied by a recipe, and bring them to the center of the bay for everyone to enjoy. Then each house could provide games or entertainment in their front yards for everyone to enjoy. There could also be one large game which everyone could enjoy together, after all the other games had been played. The party could then end with a big dance. Ava was writing Kevin's ideas on the chalkboard, and Rita suggested that they produce invitations for each house. They kept writing out all of Kevin's inspirations, and Kevin began to read and copy them into his notebook. Once the invitations were completed, everyone walked to each house and Kevin introduced everyone. He presented the invitations and explained their ideas for the party. When the people were excited to join the party, they asked when it was going to be held. Kevin suggested they provide dates which they preferred, and once Kevin had discussed the party with all the houses, they would choose a date which was suitable for everyone. Every house that answered their door enjoyed Kevin's ideas and wanted to join the party. Once they had invited every house to the party, they reviewed all the provided dates and found one which was suitable for everyone. Kevin was excited and decided to make new invitations with the official party date included. Once the invitations were complete, they delivered them to every house. There was several days left before the Bay party, and Kevin was very inspired to start planning the features, games, and entertainment they were to provide. After they made their way through all of their previous recipes and the cookbooks from the bookshelves, they went to the library to borrow more materials. They read through different recipes, and Kevin noted the similarities and differences to the recipes they had already prepared or researched. Tony wrote down all of the new recipe ideas which inspired Kevin. Once they read through all the recipe materials, they used each of their meals before the party to revise some of the past recipes that they had already enjoyed and try new recipes that inspired Kevin. With every new feature, Kevin concentrated on the processes and tastes, noting which ones inspired him the most and which made the most unanimous sounds of enjoyment. The features Kevin wanted to use for the party were revised and changed each day they got closer to the party. When they were not testing recipes for their meals, they started to go through the bookshelves for information on games, and then went to the library to borrow more materials. They read through the materials, and Kevin was amazed to realize all the different games anyone could play. He noted the similarities and differences from the games he was already familiar with and tried to understand the rules and purpose of each new game. He was pleased to understand that most of the games could be played properly with any number of players and no coaches were required. On the day of the Bay party, everyone gathered at the kitchen table and discussed the 4 features they were going to prepare. They reviewed the recipes they had tasted the previous days, discussed which ones were their favorites, and decided on a menu. Kevin followed the preparation of each feature to ensure that they would turn out as expected. When the features were completed, everyone gathered at the table again to discuss the 4 types of games and entertainment they were going to provide. Kevin admitted that there were so many games that he was interested in playing, but he had not practiced any of them. Rita suggested that Kevin entertain the partygoers by handling his ball and keeping it from touching the ground. Kevin agreed, as he had practiced it many times. Ava suggested that Tony play goalie in their net so partygoers could try to score. Kevin laughed and agreed. Tony smiled, nodded, and wrote in his notebook. Rita suggested that she make 3 different types of juice and get people to taste and guess the flavors. And Ava suggested that she draw portraits of the partygoers as they visited their yard. Kevin agreed and cheered when he realized they were finally prepared for the party. Just before the Bay party was scheduled to begin, Kevin was eager to start setting up the front yard and the tables and utensils in the center of the bay. As they started to set everything up, Kevin noticed that some of the other houses were starting to set up as well. Everyone waved at each other as they set up their party equipment, and Kevin cheered in excitement for the party. Slowly, each house began to set up their front yards with games and entertainment, and were bringing more tables to join with theirs at the center of the bay. At the scheduled time, they carried their 4 features out to the center of the bay, and the other houses joined in. Everyone read through the recipes of each new feature and tasted them. When they found a recipe that was enjoyable and inspiring, they pointed it out, and Tony wrote in his notebook. All of the houses tasted everyone else's features and commented on which ones they enjoyed the most. Once all the features had been tasted and everyone was satisfied from eating, the children ran to one of the front yards and started to play the games and enjoy the entertainment. Kevin joined them as they laughed and played. He ran back to the front yard where everyone was waiting, and a few children followed him. Ava had the stereo playing and started to sketch one of the children's faces as they were tasting the juices that Rita provided. Ava handed the child the portrait, and they cheered when they realized what she had done. Kevin started to handle his ball, and the other children cheered him on. Ava started to draw another portrait as the next child was trying the juices. Kevin took a shot at the net and scored on Tony. Everyone cheered, and Charlie howled. One of the children tried handling the ball like Kevin did, and another tried to score on Tony. Kevin took Charlie by the leash and ran to another house with other children and started to play a new game. Kevin continued trying new games and returning back to update everyone. Everyone kept watching Kevin and Charlie as they moved around the bay, and Tony tried his best to watch Kevin and Charlie write in his notebook and protect the net. When Kevin had finished visiting all the yards and had enjoyed all the games and entertainment, he returned to everyone and asked Ava to turn up the stereo. Kevin started to dance with Charlie in the street, and everyone joined in. The children heard the music and saw the dancing and joined them dancing in the bay. Everyone laughed and danced with the music. The children started to wave and call to the adults at the other houses. Some of the adults joined the dancing, but most just enjoyed watching. Rita continued to serve juice to the children and adults, and everyone enjoyed the refreshment. Ava pulled out a larger canvas and started to paint the scene of the street, and everyone dancing. Some of the adults and the girl whom the previous party was for watched and admired Ava as the painting progressed. As the children danced and the sun started to set, Tony jumped into the back of the truck and started to shoot fireworks into the sky. Kevin ran over to Tony and danced and cheered in surprise. Everyone watched the fireworks and cheered and danced and laughed together in the bay. When the fireworks were done, Kevin gave Tony 2 thumbs up and cheered, and Tony did the same. Everyone gathered around Ava's canvas with some of Rita's juice and watched as she finalized the painting. When she stepped away, everyone cheered and Ava smiled and drank some juice. The girl who was watching Ava paint pointed at a girl dancing happily in the painting and asked if it was her. Ava confirmed that it was her, and the girl giggled and blushed. Kevin asked Ava if the girl could have the painting. Ava agreed, and the girl cheered in surprise. Some of the adults started to retrieve their items from the center of the bay and make their way back into their houses. Eventually, everyone collected their items and then relaxed by the fire pit after everything was put away. Kevin talked about all the features he enjoyed, the games he played, that he did not witness a single accident, and how the fireworks were his favorite part of the entire party. Everyone agreed, and Tony wrote in his notebook.